Okay, this is English 373, week 14, part 5. So, Dogberry and Verges, they capture some suspicious people. They try to tell the guy about it, and he's really too busy to listen to them. And also, because they're stupid, they're sort of doofuses, so he doesn't want to listen to them, but, like, he should. Because if he did stop to listen to them, he would discover... They're maybe dumb, but they accidentally arrest the right people. And if he would listen to them, he would really learn something, but he doesn't. And there's a real lesson in there. I think my students have all experienced something like that from teachers. It's a very common experience for my students to write very smart papers, but their English isn't so good, oftentimes because English isn't their first language or writing is not the easiest thing for them. And my students often have really good ideas, but because the grammar in the essays is all messed up, teachers think they're stupid and ignore them. That's exactly what happens in this play. Dogberry, his English is messed up. He keeps using the wrong words, and so the guy he's trying to talk to thinks he's dumb and ignores him. But Dogberry may not be great with words, but he has successfully captured some criminals that would actually help Leonato's life a whole lot. Because he's about to his daughter's going to have her reputation slandered in front of everyone, and it's going to be a whole problem, and he could have stopped it early if he had just listened to somebody. But because the person's English wasn't perfect, he was like, they're stupid, I'm going to ignore them, and he gets fucked up. And I think a lot of teachers do this to students, where a lot of my students are really smart, but they're not necessarily the best at writing essays or expressing themselves in words. And so I think there's something really important in there about how, like, just because somebody doesn't seem smart doesn't mean they're not smart. They just may not be so good with words. Dogberry is not good with words, but he's actually a really good person. So Dogberry tries to do the interrogation of these criminals, and he sits them all down to sort of investigate this crime. So he asks them their name and says to write down the name, and they ask the other name, and they get the names from the guy. And he says, "Masters, do you serve God?" Meaning, like, are you good people? And they both say, "Yes, sir, we hope." He's talking. So you're supposed to ask criminals, like, "Where were you on the night of the robbery?" Or, "We overheard you saying you were going to destroy this young woman's reputation." But instead, he asks if they serve God. So they say they do. And he says, "Write down that they hope." "Yes, sir, we hope." "Write down that they hope to serve God. And write God first. For God defend, but God should go before such villains." So, like, that's a stupid question to ask criminals. But he's like, he gets them into the interrogation room, and he's got, to ask them questions about the crime. And he says, "Are you good people?" And they're like, "Well, we hope to be." And he says, "Okay, write down that they hope to be good people." Like, you're not understanding how to do a criminal investigation here. He says, "Masters, it is proved already that you are little better than false knaves," meaning you're bad people, "and it will go near to be thought so shortly. How answer you for yourselves?" "Well, we say we are none." A marvelous witty fellow, I assure you, but go about with him." So they basically say, he says, we know. We overheard you. We know you're bad people. Are you bad people? And they go, "No." And he doesn't know what to do next. Like, he's out of ideas at that point. He asked them, he overheard them being bad people, and he's like, "Are you bad people?" And they're like, "No." And he doesn't have another move. Like, he's just not smart enough to think about what to do. And he has to talk to, "I say to you, sir, it is thought you are false knaves," meaning bad people. "Well, I say to you, sir, we are none." "Well, stand aside. 'Fore God, they are both in a tale. Have you written down that they are none?" That's what he wants written into the official report, is that because they say that, write down that they said they're not bad people. So his buddy has to be like, "Master Constable, you go not the way to examine. You must call forth the watch that are their accusers." "Okay, right. Let's do that." So he gets the people. "Masters, I charge you in the prince's name, accuse these men." So the police officers come out to say these are bad people. And he gives the whole, "This man, sir, said that Don John, the prince's brother, was a villain." Now, Don John is a bad guy. So Dogberry says, "Write down Prince John a villain. Why, this is flat perjury to call the prince's brother a villain." So the prince's brother in this story is a very bad person. And they overheard these guys talking about that. So he says, "Write it down." And then he says, "That's offensive to call a rich and important person a bad guy." But the rich and important person is a bad guy. But he's like, he thinks, because Dogberry's whole point is you got to be, like, nice to people all the time. He's very upset that they've said something bad about the prince's brother. But you should say bad things about the prince's brother, because in this play, he's a real bad guy. But he thinks that's the worst thing about them, is that they said something. The thing that he's most upset about is that they said something bad, but it's correct. That guy is bad. What else heard you say? Mary, that he'd received 1,000 ducats of John for accusing the lady hero wrongfully. So he got money from the prince's brother to say that this woman has been sleeping around on her husband. Flat burglary as was ever committed. He means perjury. Perjury is lying. Burglary is stealing something. So he says, that's got to be a lie. How could this rich, nice guy say bad thing like that? But he's an idiot, because that's exactly what happened. What else? And that Count Claudio did mean upon his words to disgrace here before the whole assembly. This is all. Okay. Sorry, I don't want to get into the whole plot of the play. I just really want to talk about Dogberry alone. And this, more masters, is more than you can deny. And he says, and so they tell him, like, this woman got accused at the altar, and she died as a result. And they say, we're gonna go tell people. Basically, the criminals lied about this woman's reputation. And then the priest, because her reputation was a woman, faked her death. Well, when the criminals find out, they think she's dead. When the criminals think she's dead, they feel really bad. Like, they wanted to lie. They didn't want to kill anybody. So they're pretty upset by this. Actually, they want to, like, confess. They're very upset because they're nice people. It's a nice play with nice people. This is not Macbeth. He says, let them be opinioned. He means pinioned is to... Pinioned without the O means to put handcuffs on someone. Opinion means to have an opinion, which is not what he means. And they call him names. Off, coxcomb. That means stupid person. God's my life, where's the sexton? Let him write down the prince's officer a coxcomb. Come bind them, thou naughty varlet. And basically, they tell him, coxcomb is like an idiot. It's the thing that a court jester wears for being a fool. So he says, I can't believe this criminal called me an idiot. Hey, write down that I'm an idiot. Because he wants a record of how offensive they've been. But what actually ends up happening is he's like, I want you to write down that I am a huge idiot. Because he's a doofus. And he's and what's funny is Nathan Fillion's performance in this scene. It's the kind of thing I wouldn't have thought to do as an actor. But as an actor, what he does is when she calls him an idiot, his feelings are, like, really hurt. Like, he's really upset that she said this to him. All she did was this is just a criminal calling a cop an idiot. And he is kind of an idiot. And it really hurts his feelings. And he's very upset, and he has to kind of defend himself from this sort of terrible claim. And then she says, you're an ass. Dost thou suspect my place? He means you should respect my position as a police officer. But he says suspect, which is not the right word. Dost thou suspect my place? Dost thou not suspect my years? Meaning you should respect me because I'm a police officer. You should respect me because I'm older than you are. But he uses the wrong word. He uses suspect. Oh, that he were here to write me down an ass. But masters, remember that I am an ass. Because he wants them to write down and remember that someone said something mean to him. But he's actually just running around telling everybody that he's an ass. Though it not be written down, yet forget not that I am an ass. No, thou villain, thou art full of piety, as shall be proved upon thee by good witness. That's not the word that he wants. I am a wise fellow, and which are more an officer, and which is more a householder, and which is more a pretty piece of flesh as any in Messina. So he says, like, listen, I'm a police officer, I own property, and he also adds, I'm a really good-looking person. I'm as pretty a piece of flesh as any in Messina. Like, listen, I own property, I have a position in society, and I'm very good looking. People shouldn't say bad stuff about me. And one that knows the law go to, and a rich fellow enough go to, and a fellow that hath had losses. It's a really weird thing. He brags that he had losses. I think the idea is that he's rich enough to have been stolen from. But it's like a really weird thing to be like, to brag, like, I've been robbed. That's how important I am. And then he ends here, one that hath 2 gowns, like he's so proud of owning more than one dressing gown, and everything handsome about him. Bring him away. Oh, that I had been writ down an ass. Like, make sure that, write down that I'm an ass. An ass meaning donkey, meaning stupid person. Okay, so it's a very silly scene. Nathan Fillion's performance of this is amazing. He does an incredibly good job with it, and I will pick this up in the next video.